Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Hustle Underdog podcast, where we teach creators how to hustle and hustlers how to create. Today, I have a guest with probably the best Zoom setup that I've seen since I've started these things. The founder of editvideocalls.com, Patrick Frank. Patrick, how are you doing, man?
Great, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the shout out. I get to cheat a little bit because I'm a video producer turned entrepreneur, so I can talk a little bit about equipment stuff too if you want.
Yeah, tell us how you got started being an entrepreneur, or were you always an entrepreneur? Like, were you selling candy as a kid, or like, how'd you get into it?
Yeah, I mean, I've never really considered myself an entrepreneur until recently. I've kind of really feel like there's a difference between small business owner and entrepreneur.
Yeah,
You know, that's always what I've done is like I've been a small business owner. Like I'm the one doing the work. You know, in 2013 I started my production company based just outside Washington D.C. Did a ton of stuff for large nonprofits and small businesses and stuff, and was always kind of had the itch for like, man, I would really just like love to run a company or something that wasn't trading time for money. And it wasn't really until recently where I was able to kind of put some pieces together, and then COVID really sort of like necessitated a quick transition. Like I thought this was going to be my 5-year plan to stop filming and to getting into running a company, but it turns out it's my 5-month plan. So,
yeah,
um, but yeah, no, I mean, I was never really like a business like hustling kid or anything like that. Like I always admired those guys. Like there was one kid I remember in high school who would he would go to the grocery store at lunch and buy like a 24 case of like Coke or something. And he would just like be walking around the hallways all afternoon selling them for $1 a can. And I was like, man, that's such a good idea. Like I should do that, but no, I was never like that.
When I was younger, what I would do is I kind of figured out BJ's had this dirty box of candy, 30 pieces, similar to how you would do like a fundraiser. So I knew if I went and it was $15. So I knew if nothing else, I'd double my money every time. And I started out, I'll never forget it because this wasn't my first taste of like entrepreneurship, but it was kind of like I was starting to get older and I was like, oh wow, this is working. I went to BJ's and I bought a 40 pack of Skittles, just plain, plain Skittles, and I put it in one of those like drawstring backpacks, and I brought it to school, and I had 40 packs of Skittles, and I said, and I, looking back on it, it's kind of cringy, but I was like, hey, you want to buy Skittles? And I just went around to people, and they sold, and I had $40 in my pocket at the end of the day, and I just kind of kept reinvesting, and then I tried to put like a team of people under me, like it got ridiculous.
That's
That
amazing. I mean, look, as long as you can be cheaper than the vending machine at school or
right.
have different options, you win. That's it. I love it.
So COVID kind of forced you to take a step back from recording and just kind of do something else. Has video like always been your thing?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, I've been running this production company since 2013. And I call it a production company, but I'm the only full-time employee. Like I have lots of contractors that help me out and they do animation, and I need a director of photography, I need a production assistant. Like I have a big network now that I can reach out to when I have a need. But
Yeah,
I've been really just doing this myself for 7 years now. And what happened was we had a couple shoots with a couple large nonprofits that wanted kind of like about the organization or about the program videos. And so we were planning on doing a typical video, like go do a shoot, interview a couple people, get some B-roll, some action shots, layer in some other footage and put together like a 3 or 4 minute kind of homepage video. Very straightforward, kind of like brand story video. And then all of a sudden, like that shoot got canceled. What are we going to do? And then it was, okay, well, what if we do the interviews on Zoom? Sure, that's fine. Like we're all sort of getting comfortable. This is like mid-March. We're all sort of getting comfortable with this idea of like Zoom and working from home. Well, hey, now that we're doing this all on Zoom, we don't have to limit it to just the people in Maryland. What if we call this person in Phoenix, call this person in Los Angeles? Like, let's get everybody involved.
yeah,
We can have even some other people kind of submit videos to us. Like, wow, like this is actually turning into a really cool project. Before you would maybe have to go film in all these places or hire local
right.
crews. Gets really expensive really fast. And we finished that video, and it was just as good as if I would have gone there and filmed the interviews and stuff like that. Because, when it comes down to it, when you get rid of all the production value stuff and the lights and the cameras and stuff, all you have left is just a story. And is that person good at delivering that message?
Right.
And if you can make it exciting enough by putting some graphics and some, we use a lot of like historical footage too for some of these things, that both thematically and because it looks cool. And if you can kind of just like put a nice video together, you don't, I'm completely convinced you don't have to film anything anymore in the traditional way that we think about it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, COVID has forced us to be creative, and it makes things
Yeah.
different. For my day job, we were having discussions for a while around not sending people to work at home for a multitude of reasons. And then COVID came, and like that, we sent 98% of our workforce home,
Oh,
and we're
wow.
actually a little more productive than we were when we were like I work for a call center than when we were in the center, and it just made everybody kind of look at things differently. Hey, for your production company, tell me about how you got your first customer.
Yeah. This is a great tip that everybody should learn. The best way to get your first customer is to turn your employer into your client. And here's what I mean by that. If you have been in a job for a while, you've got a good rapport with your boss, things are going pretty good, but you want a little bit more flexibility. Your side hustle is gaining momentum. The best way to exit that job and still have some of that safety blanket of a full-time job is just to say, hey, boss, look, I'm doing X, Y, and Z things. I'm really good at my job. I want to go down to part-time. I want to go down to 15 or 20 hours a week, only doing X. I don't want to do Y and Z. And here's how much based on my salary, and you won't have to pay me benefits, and you won't have to micromanage me. Here's what I'm looking for. Is this cool? Can I do this? And I guarantee you, a lot of times they're going to say yes. And
Yeah.
so now you've just signed your first client. You have a really nice baseline of monthly, weekly income that you can depend on. And that frees you up to go grab other clients. And whatever that X is, find other people that need that. So whatever that part of your job is, that is something that you're an expert in. Because people that have day jobs, like they're doing 10 different things, they only really care and they're only really good at 2 or 3 of them, right? What are those
Right.
2 or 3 things that you can pitch your boss on to do part-time, and then go pitch other people to do those things as well? A lot of us only need, when I was running my production business, I only need like 4 or 5 clients at a time, 4 or 5 projects at a time. Like I don't need a ton. And so, I think like there's this, I need to get like 10 clients, 20 clients, 50 clients, whatever. Like you just need to have a handful. So I would say that's absolutely an essential part of why I was able to make the jump, is because I said, hey, I'm making all these documentary style videos. I'm really good at this and I like this stuff. I hate doing all this other stuff. Like I never touched After Effects or any of the graphics or anything like that. I was really bad at that. I was like, how about I do one documentary a month? And, this is what it would cost. And here's, some of the parameters. And they're like, yeah, that sounds great. This is basically what you're doing now, in addition to like all this other crap I didn't want to do. Let's do that. And so we did that for 6 months or a year. And that was like a really good way for me to get started.
Nice, man. So tell me about how you scaled up from there. I imagine, like you said, you pitch your boss likes it because this is what you've already been doing. Tell me about the first customer that you got that you didn't know? Like, how was that process?
Yeah. So here's another kind of weird tip. I don't know if you can kind of like engineer this or what, but before that I only had like 2 or 3 kind of like real jobs before I started doing this stuff. But one of the jobs was like a really crappy company, which at the time, and I was only there for like a year and a half or something like that. But what was interesting was, because there was so much turnover, because there were so many people that wouldn't stay for very long, all of a sudden, like I had this network of all these people that I knew at all these different companies, because there were just so many employees coming in and out all the time. So that actually worked really well. So I would reach out to people and say, hey, we used to work together at this job 18 months ago, whatever. Hey, I've just branched out on my own. I'm doing these kinds of videos. Here are a couple examples. Would love to touch base, hear what you're doing at your new employer, see if there's any opportunities to work together. So that kind of really worked out. So it's almost like crappy jobs with a lot of turnover can be good, because it just means that you have your fingers in like all these other different companies via these people that that you used to work with. And then other than that, I got the opportunity through one of the people from the crappy job. She was working at the Washington Business Journal, and she invited me to speak on a panel about social media. So someone was there was like 5 people. One person was Facebook, one person was Twitter, one person was Google Plus, LOL. And then I was there kind of talking about YouTube and about, different ways you can get started with video for your company and stuff like that. And from there, the Twitter person, I was like, hey, so she's doing marketing and branding, and she's doing all these tweet ups. You might even be too young for that. You know what a tweet up is?
I vaguely remember I started Twitter right when they started slowing down.
That's awesome. And so I took a look at what she was doing. Hey, she's doing marketing, branding, logos, web design, but no video. Hey, I wonder if I could pitch her on offering like white labeling my services to her clients that are doing these like big redesign projects and rebranding projects and stuff. And so I said, hey, let me do a video for you and kind of show you what I can do. You can put that on your website. And then also you can use that to say, hey, you can get a video like this. Did that video, turned out great. And now she's still one of my biggest partners, supporters. I'm flying to Denver next month to help her with this project that we started together called Speak with Confidence, which helps people write essentially TED Talk style talks and deliver them on a stage. So still doing that. I basically just like hitched my cart to her horse, that long ago and saw what she was doing. And she's just like a big personality, works with a lot of great people. I was like, I want her clients. So got a lot of my first clients that way.
I think you touched on something that's really important to people. A lot of times people want to kind of do their own thing, and then they miss that you can actually plug into someone else's system and add value
Absolutely.
there, and they can start to just funnel the leads to you, and that could be a really, really good business model. So I'm actually glad that you shared that. You touched on something that I didn't know about you though. So they're bringing you on panels to talk about YouTube. Tell me about your experience with YouTube.
I have very little experience with YouTube, I'll be honest. I think
Okay.
This was back in like 2013, 14.
Okay.
So it was still just kind of like everybody's putting their stuff on YouTube. There's no YouTubers yet, really. No one's. Yeah, and I'll be like, I really do not have that much experience with YouTube. My experience is really in creating short videos for Facebook mainly, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Those are the main things. And it's really because I'm working with a lot of coaches and consultants. They need the DMs. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. All the call to action at the end of the video is like, DM me for a free consult, DM me for more tips, that sort of thing. Right. And the videos are not very long. The people I work with are not spending a ton of time creating long videos, writing scripts, doing that sort of thing. So very, very little. You'd think that I would be big on YouTube, but I'm really not. Yeah. So
I think it's interesting that you say that though, because like what a setup like yours, like how awesome it is, and then the amount of value that you can bring to your customers and your clients, especially in the virtual world, how we are now, where everything is Zoom. People are looking for this. Like I'm looking for it. So like in a second here, I'm going to ask you about your setup and kind of high level how to achieve this look. But I think you'd crush it. I think you'd get a lot of clients off of YouTube alone. But tell me, so editvideocalls.com. Tell me how you got started with that. Like, how did that come to life? And then what is it? Like, tell me all of the details.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I talked about that one project that kind of we had to do it virtually. We had to do it on Zoom because we couldn't film. Mm-hmm. And I took a look at that video. I was like, wow, this is actually a really good video. What's the simplest way that we could kind of take this idea and deliver valuable videos for people? Because I think one of the things now in 2020 is that people need more videos. They don't need better videos. I firmly believe that. They don't need something that has a whole lot of graphics and animation and like all this crazy stuff. They just need like a very simple thing, but they need it every week or multiple times a week or something like that. And so, it's like, what is the simplest way to do that? And it's just to record the conversations that you're already having on Zoom, find little shareable moments that are generally in the 1 to 3 minute range, put it in a little branded package. So it's kind of recognizable as like, this is your brand, these are your colors, these are your fonts and stuff like that. Put a call to action at the end, which is what do you want people to do at the end of the video, and boom, post it, talk about it, add a little caption, that sort of thing. And so that kind of format is really what became Edit Video Calls. Basically was just distilling down what I was already doing into its simplest version. It's been going really well. I have a couple people working for me now. We have like 3 or 4 people part-time. I have an editor who's kind of like my main editor who's really great. I'm obviously also getting in there and doing some stuff, but yeah, I have about 5 subscription clients. So we do one-off videos, and then the subscription is 4 videos a month. So essentially, you get a new video every week.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been really cool to see what people use this for. There are some people that are using it to promote virtual events where they'll collect videos from the people that are participating in the event, and we'll put together little promos that say, hey, I'm super excited to be speaking at this thing. I'm going to be talking about XYZ. Go sign up. It's really cool. I have one guy who has a really cool story. So he's like a director of business development for a legal services firm. Super boring.
Okay.
And he started doing this thing with his team called Wind Down Wednesday, where basically it's just a Zoom happy hour. Like, hey, let's get together, small 4 or 6 person team. And he started bringing in other people from other parts of the company. So he's in business development, and like there might be someone from accounting, there might be someone from HR. And so he just kind of had people come in, just kind of like, hey, share how your work has been, in COVID time and what you're working on and how you're getting through this. And, just sort of like to expose his team and himself to different parts of the company and different people that he wouldn't normally have conversations with, because there's no more water cooler talk. There's no more, passing by someone in the hallway or anything anymore. Create some of that. And so we started clipping little segments from these Wind Down Wednesdays, and all of a sudden he has a show now. He never set out to have a show, but he's got people from the legal departments at companies like Facebook and Oracle that are like, hey, I want to talk. I want to speak on Wind Down Wednesday. I want to talk to your team. I want to hang out. And it was all because he just started sharing some of this stuff that was already happening. So that was a really cool kind of development. Like I never saw that coming. And that's something that I want to explore more as well. It's just, hey, what are salespeople doing right now? There's no schmoozing, right? There's no happy hours. There's no golf. There's no, I don't know. I don't know anything about sales, but I think there's something there where you can just, just being more present, being more active on these platforms, being more recognizable, and being more helpful and valuable, like actually putting content out there that people find useful. So.
Sure. I bet you'd make a killing, and this could be a means of content marketing. You're talking, and like the ideas in my head are like firing off. So you may have already thought of some of these, but I'm like, let me share them just in case he hasn't. Right. So you help this guy. You help this guy create these virtual happy hours, and he starts doing it, and it kind of takes off. You probably could do maybe a series on how to create, like maybe a webinar, or I don't know, but on how to create virtual happy hours, or something like, or showing people the basics of setting up the conference happy hour type whatever. And I think people would just look to you as the expert and naturally gravitate to edit video calls. I looked at the pricing and I looked at everything she did. I'm like, yo, this is perfect. I could really see, like, of course you're having success now, and I wish you a ton more, but you're going to be very busy very soon once people kind of
I appreciate it. Yeah, well, and the one thing is that I'm here to share kind of everything I know, because I realize that the way that service companies like mine make money is because people recognize that they don't have time to learn how to do it or do it right. Mm-hmm. And so I want people to. I have an ebook on the homepage that you can check out if you go to editvideocalls.com. It's right there, but it's a 30-page ebook that kind of goes through all the steps to optimize your Zoom settings for recordings. And then it gives you 21 ways, different content types that you can repurpose these Zoom recordings into content. So, one thing that you might not think about is like, there's a whole world of written content that you can create from your Zoom calls. So what you can do is take your recording, go to otter.ai, which is a transcription service. It's basically free I think they give you 600 minutes a month of transcription free, which is awesome. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Drop your recording in there. It's going to auto transcribe it. Find a piece that was interesting of whatever conversation you just had. And then you can use that as the beginning of your blog post. So you don't have to stare at a white page anymore. You already know what you're going to start with. You can use some pull quotes, use some direct quotes from that person that you talk to. And then if you want to take it a step further, you could trim out that little segment that you're writing about, embed that into the blog post. And then it's kind of like a full circle, right? You post that segment, you say you want to learn more, you can go to the blog post here. And then obviously the blog post and the video, they sort of play off of each other, right? So you can reach different people in different ways that way. So that's a really easy way to get started with some of these ideas of repurposing Zoom, everyday Zoom conversations into usable content.
I think you just set up you just set up a bunch of our listeners with some ideas on pretty much how to start their own Zoom interview slash blog series. Like they're going to hear this and then they're going to be motivated to jump in. Tell me, I know you have it on your site. Tell me maybe one or two ways to like optimize a Zoom call. Like if I were like right now, I might not have the best settings. I'm just kind of in it. As you can see, I'm in the dungeon, but it adds to it adds to the
Yes,
underdog feel, right? It's kind
I
of
love
gritty.
it. It's great, man. It's awesome. Yeah, I could kind of talk a little bit about my setup. Maybe that's the best
Okay,
way to do it. So I'm
sure.
on the first floor of my house in the suburbs. I'm in front of a window. I have a big soft box right here, which is, would have been collecting dust on my shelf downstairs. But I'm like, no, let's set it up. So I can't really like show you, but I can send a picture of it. But
Sure.
this is $1,000 light that I use for interviews and stuff like that. So I don't expect people to have that. But even if you got a ring light, a couple LED panels, something like that, Amazon has
Okay.
tons of stuff, and all of it, they're all pretty much the same, and they're all pretty good. I mean, it's going to be better than nothing. So, get what we call a key light up in front of you. And if you can use a natural light source, if you can be in front of a window as opposed to behind, that works really well. That works well also.
Okay.
As far as my camera, I'm using a Sony A6300 my mirrorless camera with the kit lens. And then it's wild. Every time I go to Amazon, this capture card is less expensive every time. It started at $30, then it was $20. And the last one I sent someone, it was $11. And what it does is it takes your HDMI out, and it's a HDMI to USB converter. You plug that into your computer, and that should work with most mirrorless and DSLR cameras. There might be some extra software you might need from Canon or something like that to get it to recognize. But that is a really great way to just, if you have a camera lying around, get a cheap tripod, get an HDMI cable, get this $10 or $15 capture card, and now you got a pretty cool setup. And so, this has like an autofocus lens on it and stuff like that, which is nice. But it's nothing fancy. Like you could buy that camera used for probably like $500. So
Yeah. Nice. I
um,
think you just gave us the recipe. Like I'm really, really impressed with your setup. And when you just did the autofocus thing and did this cool thing with your finger. So
it's a good party trick, right? But then, other than that, it's not a plain background behind me, like I've thought about where to set up the desk and all this other stuff. That plant's new. I always like having plants. Like when I'm doing interviews on set, you gotta get a plant in there. You're like, looks good, right? It's lively. So,
yeah.
but if you don't have a cool space, or if you have especially if it's just like a plain space, like a plain white wall or something like that, I met with the guys that run HelloBackgrounds.com, and they have this cool product where they sell basically a pack of background photos and videos that you can put on the background of your Zoom call, Google Meet, that sort of thing. Just kind of neutral. It's better. I think it's a lot better than. Have you been on a call with someone yet who has like a animated GIF going of their company logo in the back? They got like a green screen, and I just think that's super lame. I really hate that. So Hello Backgrounds is really cool, is because they'll have like co-working spaces or the lobby of an apartment building kind of look and feel. So just kind of homey and, like I said, just neutral, not distracting. And if you can't be in a space that has some dimensionality to it or anything like that, this could be a good option for you. So that's hellobackgrounds.com.
Awesome. Thank you very much for sharing that. So what a lot of our listeners are just getting started with entrepreneurship. They're kind of trying to find their thing, and honestly, their idea could probably be right in front of their face, and they may not know. But everybody's good at something, and I'm sure that they can
Yeah.
leverage it into a business. What advice would you give to someone who's just starting out, trying to either find an idea or get their idea off the ground?
Yeah. I think a lot of people get hung up, and I remember I got hung up on this too. Like, man, my website sucks. Like, I need to spend time on my website. Or, like, do I have to set up an LLC? Or, business cards aren't really the thing right now, but you get the idea of like, there's just all this stuff that you think you have to do, when really the most important thing is just get someone to pay you for something. Just find someone that will give you $50 on PayPal to do something, whatever it is. And once you do that and you find success and you can repeat whatever that thing is, and that $50 turns into $250, turns into $2,500, now you got some momentum. Now you have a little bit of a portfolio. Now you have some customers, some clients that you can get testimonials from. Now you can start putting all that stuff together into more of like a public persona with your website and stuff like that. But I think there's so much opportunity with people that are in Facebook groups complaining about stuff, that are, on Reddit and talking about, how they wish that this thing existed, or how they wish they had more time for this or that. And I think just picking off some of those and just being like, yeah, I could do that. Just do it. I think that's the best way.
Awesome. Thank you for that advice. Do you have any books that you read that kind of got you, that excited you and kind of sparked that entrepreneur thing in your mind?
Yeah. A couple years ago, I read The E-Myth. Have you heard of that one?
I haven't.
So the E-Myth is basically like, it kind of tells the story of entrepreneurship through a baker. And so, the story is basically, she loves making cakes, and her family is like, these cakes are amazing. You got to open a bakery. And you can kind of figure out what happens next, right? Like, she's waking up at 4 a.m. to make all the cakes. Then she's at the register. And then she has all this other, marketing and whatever stuff that she has to do. And then, like, she never sleeps, and she is crazy, right? And that, I think, like, that's a really good book to figure out, like, once you kind of have a little bit of traction, to start thinking about, all right, like, what are some systems and processes that you can start to create where you can start outsourcing little pieces of things. And this is something that I'm trying to do right now, where, like, I'm bringing on a VA just for cold outreach, just for, hey, like, I'm paying someone to create some lists from some targets to, like, go reach out to people on LinkedIn, some email addresses based on my, target customer for edit video calls, which I mentioned is coaches and consultants. I'm literally going to pay someone just to send those emails and to do that follow up and outreach and stuff like that, because I'm the bottleneck on that. I hate doing it. It's awkward. I'm too close to it. I'd rather do other stuff. I'm really good at making videos. Like, I should be doing that and not doing the cold outreach. So, once you reach certain levels, just think about investing in the things that you suck at or that you don't want to do, and passing off little pieces as you progress.
Perfect. So, Patrick, you've left us with a ton of value. I'm leaving out of this interview, and now I know how to kind of where to position my desk. Using an external camera is probably going to get me a better result. Do you use a special mic at all for your videos?
Honestly, I'm just using these earbuds that are
Okay.
the Jabra 75T that I picked up a couple months ago. I kind of found that, like, big headphones are kind of an eyesore, so I kind of just do this because it's a little bit just more discreet. And I could run a microphone or something like that, but the problem is that Zoom compresses everything so much that it almost doesn't matter whether you have. And I can tell that you have headphones, like your microphone's on your headphones too, which is good, as opposed to your computer, because the whole idea is, like, with microphones is you want to get closer to the source, right? Which being your mouth. So, you have that? That's what you're using?
Insignia. And I bought it for something else a while ago, and then I was like, all right, well, I'm doing these interviews, I might as well use an external mic. How much of a difference it actually makes, I'm not really sure.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely makes a difference, but I will say that it doesn't make as much of a difference as you think, because Zoom is just so heavily compressing everything. And so, if you go to editvideocalls.com, I also have a training video, which, again, in my whole kind of repurposing thing. So the video, I did a live training, and then I turned that into the ebook. So if you go to the live training, that'll also give you kind of some settings and some when I kind of walk through all the Zoom settings and say, like, there's just, like, different audio stuff that I've found to be preferable. But, if you really want to up your game, it's really just recording your audio separately. So when I'm on set, I have a Zoom H6 hard disk recorder that has 4 XLR inputs on it, and it records to a SD card. That works really well. And you can also use that as an audio interface. So if you were to say, you have your microphone there, if you were to, like, open up GarageBand or something and record your audio separately and then sync it with the video later, that might give you that would be better as like a way to get higher quality audio. But I think that the fact of the matter is that 85% of people, especially if you're trying to do what I'm talking about, with sharing stuff on social media and stuff, 85% of people are watching videos on Facebook on mute, right?
True.
So the fact of the matter is that it's all about those captions and your animated text and things like that anyway. And so I really don't spend a whole lot of time with my clients about audio. It's really just kind of don't worry too much about it. So.
Gotcha. Well, Patrick, man, we certainly appreciate your time. Is there anything else that you want to share with us before we wrap up?
I would say just record your video calls. You're on here every day. You have interesting conversations, and then you hang up and it's gone. And in real life, if you were talking to someone, you're getting coffee, you're at the bar, something like that, like, yeah, that conversation would be gone. But now we can have it forever and we can do stuff with it. It's such an exciting time. So I would say don't underestimate your everyday conversations. Find little pieces that are really valuable, that are going to help you show some personality, and help people in your network to do stuff, give some insight, entertain, have some fun, whatever it is. So
Sure.
I just think it's the easiest way for people to start being creators instead of just consumers when it comes to social media and marketing and business and all these things.
Sure. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here. Patrick Frank with editvideocalls.com. He's given us a ton of tips. Patrick, we thank you for your time. I thank you for finding value in the show and wanting to connect. We'll definitely be having another conversation soon. I'm in a few Facebook groups with coaches, consultants, entrepreneurs, pretty much people that are right up your alley who would 1,000% benefit from your
That's
service.
awesome,
So
man. No, I really appreciate it.
for sure. And if anybody's listening, go to editvideocalls.com right now and check out what Patrick has and test it out. More content can't hurt. Content is king, especially with the internet. That's how you get sales. That's how you get business. That's how things are moving. So go ahead and check them out. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and close out. This was another episode of the Hustle Underdog podcast, where we teach creators how to hustle, hustlers how to create. Patrick, thank you again, man.
Pleasure, man. Great to connect, and talk to you soon.